Basketball season is upon us. Will Montana State and Eastern Washington defend their tournament titles, or will we crown a new champion? The road to Boise begins now. Welcome to Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off presented by Idaho Central Credit Union. Hello and welcome to Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. Today is all about the Lumberjacks. The Northern Arizona women's team are the preseason favorite in the Big Sky, led by head coach Lori Payne and preseason Big Sky MVP Sophie Glancy. Let's welcome them both into the show. Northern Arizona was voted the preseason #1 in both the coaches and media polls. What was your reaction to that?
We were excited. I mean, obviously, we knew we had a lot of players returning, and we knew we had a lot of potential to be really good this year. And so I think to be recognized by the coaches and the media is something that, means a lot to our program. I think it's probably the first time in program history that that's happened. But I also feel like, it's only a preseason ranking, and we have a lot to prove this year. Based upon our history, of getting to the championship game. And I just feel like we have a lot to prove. And so I think it's a lot more motivation for us and the team to have that target on our back and be ready for all the teams in conference.
We all want a championship, of course. We all want rings, but I also like what coach was saying, like we haven't played a single game yet. So I think there's still that desire to get better and just really get to where we need to be in this preseason so that we're ready to go once season hits.
Sophie, the other big news for your team and you personally was, of course, being named the preseason MVP. How did you feel when you found out?
I mean, of course, that's a huge honor. I was really excited. But I mean, again, I haven't played a single game yet this year, so I don't want to get too ahead of anything. But it's also a huge shout out to my teammates. They're so awesome. And that's a huge part of why we are the team we are.
Coach, obviously everyone in the conference thinks Sophie is capable of being the preseason MVP. They recognize her skill set. As a coach, how would you describe her skill set and what she brings to your program?
Sophie's a phenomenal player, obviously putting up big numbers the last 2 years, putting herself in a position where she's our go-to player, someone who dominates the paint, someone that's been recognized by, I think, every coach in the league that you have to stop her. You have to probably double her. You have to figure out some sort of game plan to stop her. I think the best part about Soph is that she knows that she's good, but she has no idea how good she actually is. Which that humble personality is something that I think has helped her to continue to just have a ton of success.
Sophie, obviously coach thinks your humbleness is one of your strengths as a player. What do you think some of your other strengths are on the court?
On the court, I think some of my strengths maybe are just looking to score. I think I really look to get the shots that I know that I like to take in games, and I try to make sure that I'm in good positions for my teammates. I think I'm pretty good about keeping my head level in games. I don't really get too worked up by anything, so I think that helps my teammates.
Coach, you've had 2 consecutive 20-win seasons. What standard does that set for this year's program and your program going forward?
Right. I think that it just shows that we're a program that is going to be a contender, that's a championship program. When I first took over this program 8 years ago, it was, NAU was pretty irrelevant in the conference. And then I feel like we moved into, hey, now we're relevant. And now finally we've got to the place where, hey, we're contenders. And, we're one of the teams to beat, and we're one of the teams that are consistently in that top. And so I think it just continues to elevate our expectations, our standards, and just the foundation of what we have built here for many years to come.
Sophie, coach talked about the growth of the program. You're a contender. Everyone thinks you're a contender. You were voted preseason #1. What is different about this year's team compared to previous teams you've been on that makes you believe you have what it takes to win it all?
Well, to start off, I would say we're a very similar team, and we've been very close to winning it in the past. So I would say just returning everyone like that makes it so much easier. And we've all been in that high pressure situation, the championship games. So that kind of experience and like players returning and stuff makes us like very, I would say, experienced in high pressure situations. So I think that's a big one for us.
After the break, hear from the NAU men's team.
In the heart of Montana's untamed wilderness, a legend is brewing. Jeremiah Johnson Brewing, the official beer of the Big Sky Conference. Brewed with the rugged spirit of the West. Jeremiah Johnson is simply a world-class, straightforward, no-nonsense beer. Do well.
Welcome back to Big Sky Tip Off. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. Not only does NAU have the women's preseason MVP, they also have the preseason men's MVP in Trent McLaughlin. He joins me now with his head coach, Shane Burkhar. Coach Burkhar, of course, one of the big storylines entering this season is that you have the preseason Big Sky MVP, Trent McLaughlin, on your roster. As a coach, what does it mean to see one of your players voted preseason MVP?
To have somebody to be recognized by the media and the coaches, I think that says a lot about where our program's going and the work ethic of Trent. Trent has been here. This will be his third year. Been a Warrior Arizona kid. So it means a lot to our program. We take it as a team preseason award. And, Trent's very humble about it. And we have a lot to prove during the season. But I do think it's a lot of hard work that Trent has put in our program to get that recognition.
Trent, where do you think you've grown the most over your 3 years in Flagstaff?
I think just being coachable. I think when I got here, it was a tough adjustment just coming from Central Connecticut. But I think the staff and then my teammates really helped me build that relationship with the guys and then become more comfortable on the floor. And then with that, I think I was able to play with a lot more confidence. And then I think with that confidence, I was able to just grow my game. And then the trust that coach has in me is just been tremendous.
You guys will play 16 home games this season, the most since Coach Burkhar's first year at the helm. What does it mean to you to have the most home games in your career at NAU in your final season with NAU?
Yeah, I think it's really important to play at home. We always talk about defending Flagstaff and owning Flagstaff. And last year started off 5-0 and then sort of struggled in a couple conference games that we felt like we should have won. But I think that with the elevation and all the work we put in, we're in tremendous shape up here. And I think it's a huge advantage with the home crowd and, like I said, the altitude. So those 16 home games, it's big for us to be able to show out in front of the fans and show out in front of all the people that come and support us.
You've had almost all of last year's roster return for 24-25. What do you think that says about the mindset and the goals of this program for this season?
More than anything, I think it tells you about the character of our guys and the commitment to Northern Arizona University and our community here in Flagstaff, and just our team culture. The guys get along. We all get along. It's not coaches against players or players against coaches. We all get along. We all have each other's back. And, we talk about that nonstop, that we're going to fight for one another. And, we want to leave a legacy here at NAU. A lot of hard work has gone into it. We have Trent here. He's been here 3 years, as I mentioned. I'm sure we'll get to Carson Tout. He's been here for several years. And, just that loyalty of an Oakland Fort and Jaden Jackson, those 4 young men I mentioned are projected to be in our starting lineup. So I would say loyalty more than anything, in the culture and, what our athletic team here has built.
Trent, coach just used the word legacy. I know you still have a whole season to play, but what do you hope that your legacy is at Northern Arizona, or that you're building it to be?
I think my legacy, I want to be the first team to make the NCAA tournament in the last 25 years. NAU hasn't been there since 2000. And I think we have a group of guys that want to win, that want to put the work in. And I think that we have guys that want to come together. And with this group, I think we're definitely going to be the team to be the first team to be there in 25 years.
Coach, what would it mean to you to be the coach to get the team there for the first time in 25 years?
Geez, I almost get emotional thinking about it. A lot of hard work. When I first, took this job, I was told not to take it by several people, and this is how we've built it. I've stayed the same. We have great leadership, and our athletic director Mike Marlowe, who just says keep being Shane, and that's probably the best advice you can give anybody when they're taking on a new opportunity or new challenges. Be yourself. There's a reason that you got here, And just to see the guys and celebrate, we're so close in 2023, 7, 8 points away from going to the NCAA tournament on that miracle run. And just to see the guys, and you know what, Megan, the first thing that I would say is just thank you to all the players who were here before us and the team in 98 and 2000, all the players before these guys who believed in this program, and the young men now who were recruiting 24, 36 months ago. It's a different recruit. And to have Trent McLaughlin and a Carson Tout, and I won't name everybody, but to raise that trophy in Boise, I'd get emotional over that.
Coming up, Coulter Nuanez and Krista Redpath join the show to give us a breakdown of Big Sky basketball. Welcome back to Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson, joined now by two of our Big Sky basketball analysts, Krista Redpath and Coulter Nuanez. Guys, let's just get right to it. What were your initial thoughts on the Big Sky basketball preseason rankings? Coulter, I'll go to you first.
It's interesting when you analyze the men's league because there's so few returners these last couple of years. That's sort of a symptom of where we're at in Division I college basketball. But the one school that has had returners two off seasons in a row has been Montana, and I think that that's reflected when you look at the polls. Last year they returned 6 guys, which is an unheard of number for mid-major teams, and this year they have a couple stalwarts coming back, led by Brandon Whitney, who's going to be sort of an unprecedented 5th-year starter there at Montana.
I wasn't shocked on the women's side. I really expected NAU to come out on top when you look at the fact that they played in the conference championship the last 3 years. They return a nucleus of players led by preseason MVP Sophie Glancy and also Leah Beatty at the guard position. Returning both the Moran sisters, and you mix in a Taylor Feldman and a Sanaya Neverson. And I look at NAU just having that nucleus back, but also just a year of maturity under their belt. And so I wasn't shocked by that. I look at the Montana schools battling out, both Montana State and Montana. When you take a look at Montana State, they also were faced with injuries last year, but this year, with the transfer of Esmeralda Morales, as well as Lexi Deaton possibly coming back from this ACL, they're loaded. They're locked and loaded.
Montana State men have reached 3 consecutive NCAA tournaments after winning 3 Big Sky tournament titles. Who would be the dark horse on the men's side to maybe dethrone the Bobcats?
First of all, I thought it was interesting that Montana State got so much love in the preseason polls because they do lose a lot. Of course, they return Brian Garacki, they return Brandon Walker, but Robert Ford was the heart and soul of that team. So he's certainly going to be tough to replace. I actually probably would have said that Montana State would have been one of my dark horses if they weren't so highly rated in the preseason polls, but they got a whole bunch of respect in the preseason polls. One team that Krista and I actually previewed on our series Big Sky Hoops Hits 2 weeks ago is Northern Arizona on the men's side. I think that they have more continuity than a lot of the other teams in the league. You look at Trenton McLaughlin, who's leading returning scorer in the league, really, really talented guy. You look at Carson Tout, he's my kind of player. I mean, he's the guy that could fit in on every single team in the Big Sky Conference. He doesn't need to shoot it. He doesn't need to dribble it. He just sets screens and rebounds and plays defense. Northern Arizona, I know, was picked in the middle of the league, but I think they could definitely make some noise. They proved it last year. I mean, they beat every good team in the league at least once. They just have to figure out a way to sweep some of those good teams to get into that top third of the league standings.
Coulter, you just brought up Trent McLaughlin from NAU. He, of course, is the preseason MVP in the Big Sky. Krista, you mentioned Sophie Clancy, the women's MVP. I'll start with you, Krista. Did the voters get it right choosing those 2 Lumberjacks as our preseason MVPs?
Well, I think they definitely did. When you look at these players and what they have contributed to the Big Sky, and of course I can allude to Sophie Glancy just being a force down low. I mean, she was a unanimous first team All Big Sky Conference selection last year. Her physical skills, strength, agility, quickness around the basket, she really separated herself.
On the men's side, I think you could have got a variety of different ways, but Trent McLaughlin's certainly a worthy candidate, no doubt. It's a great story there at NAU too. First of all, they've poured a bunch of money into athletics, which I think is benefiting them a bunch. You've seen both their basketball programs get better, but also the McLaughlin brothers are one of the great stories in the Big Sky, right? Like Alex McLaughlin's one of the best football players in the conference. Trent, his older brother, one of the best basketball players in the conference. And you have to think that both those guys probably had opportunities to go elsewhere. They didn't because they're there together. That's a cool story. So hopefully that resonates with people.
Krista and Culture, we know NAU women, Montana, and Montana State men are the favorites in both the coaches and the media polls to win the Big Sky Conference this year. Krista, I will go to you first. Who are you picking to win the Big Sky Conference? Give me both your men's and women's picks.
Well, I definitely had NAU to win, with the Montana schools really coming in hot, and on the men's side as well. I think Coach DeCure has done a fantastic job bringing in some really great transfers, but also building around Brandon Whitney. I mean, he's one of the only Grizz players to average double figures for all 4 of his years playing for Montana, just a veteran guard. I also think with the transfer of Patterson from Sac State at the guard position, Montana definitely has all the weapons to look like they are in the forefront to win the Big Sky.
I picked Montana State. And the reason I picked Montana State is I think that Tricia Binford has established herself as the most consistent and best coach in the conference. I thought last year was one of her best coaching jobs. I remember a post that they had on their Instagram page of their bench celebrating, and their bench was KJ Lamardo and Taylor Jansen and Lexi Deedon and all these all-league caliber players that were all hurt. And Tricia Binford got through that season, and they made a run at it. I mean, they were in the semifinals last year. They finished 4th, even though they had more injury bad luck than I've ever seen. You bring all that back, you bring in Esmeralda Morales, and I just think they have a chance to be a really special team. On the men's side, I voted for Montana just because they have the most returners, but I think it's so wide open with all these new players and so many new roster complexions throughout the league. We really just won't know. It's going to take till February until these teams really coalesce. They really start working the ball around and playing together. And look at what happened last year. I mean, Montana State was up and down all year long. But then they coalesced and they played so well down the stretch. And then they had one of the great tournament runs we have ever seen. So that's what it's going to take. Who comes together at the end? Who plays down the stretch? Travis DeCure has proven he can get his team to do that at Montana. Matt Logie, same thing at Montana State. And I think there's a couple other coaches like Eric Duft at Weber and Steve Smiley at Northern Colorado that have proven that as well. So who can get their team to come together? Even though I voted for Montana, I think the men's side is wide open.
Krista, Culture, less than 5 months, and we will see who is crowned a new champion up in Boise. Can't wait to see you both at that tournament. Still to come, what can fans expect from our championship week? Our friends from Visit Boise stop by to share all the city has to offer.
Yeah, definitely. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye.
All right. Thanks. All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Welcome back to Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson. Our tournament is in Boise every year, so who better to have on the show than someone from Visit Boise, Lucas Gebhardt. The tournament has been in Boise since 2019. What impact does the Big Sky Basketball Tournament have on the city of Boise?
We think it's about a $6.5 million total economic impact to the city. And so that what we mean by that is all the hotel spending, all of the money that's spent at restaurants and shops and ticket sales and things like that. We think about 13,000 people or so go to the tournament. That includes local fans as well as fans that are traveling to Boise. And we think about 4,300 fans or so travel to Boise to watch this tournament from the various Big Sky markets. So it definitely has a huge impact for the city, and we're excited to have it once again in 25.
For those who have not been to Boise, like myself, what kinds of things can they expect to do there outside of the tournament?
The cool part about our tournament is all the fans can stay in our downtown hotels and be walking distance from the game. So if you fly, you don't have to rent a car. Our airport's 7 minutes. Our downtown is 7 minutes away from our airport. We have tons of great outdoor recreation activities. We have a 30-mile long bike trail that runs along our river, both sides of our river. We also have tons of hot springs that are within a couple hours drive of Boise. Some are under an hour from Boise. We have a great wine country that's about 45 minutes outside of downtown as well. So Idaho's got some really underrated wine that we definitely want people to check out if they end up coming here. We were rated by National Geographic as one of the best in the world destinations to visit in 2025. So that's something that we just got awarded. We're pretty excited about that. So we got lots of things to do here, whether it's our great restaurant scene or outdoor recreation or just the walkable and accessibility to all the things to do in our downtown.
One of the big things that people want to know when they go to a new city is, where are some of the restaurants that I must try?
Some of the best restaurants in town are some of our Basque restaurants. We have an entire block in our downtown that's dedicated to that Basque culture and that Basque heritage. We also have a restaurant in downtown called Kin that their chef just won a James Beard Award. That's the first James Beard Award that any restaurant or chef in our city has won. So that's something else that we're pretty excited about.
I can't wait to get up there and experience Boise in a few months for myself. And I appreciate you taking time to put a spotlight on your city.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for previewing the season with me on Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off presented by Idaho Central Credit Union. I'm your host, Megan Robinson, and I can't wait to see you all in Boise in March.